We're not sure that those are going to work, but we will be uploading the entire presentation today to YouTube with French captions later. So we hope, nous espérons que les personnes restent ici, but there will also be captions later as well. So stay with us if you can. My name, again, is Claudia Mitchell, and I welcome you to the beginning of the third series of the Transform Learning Series project, part of Transform. Before we jump into the program today, I will just start with a short land acknowledgement. So although we convene today on a virtual platform, we acknowledge the land upon which we are physically located. This event is hosted by McGill University, an institution with an ongoing colonial legacy situated on the unceded territory of the Gunun-Kahaka. But recognizing the land beneath our feet is just the beginning of our journey towards decolonization and reconciliation. This journey also involves acknowledging the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. It means continuing to hold our institutions accountable, and it means adding our voices to calls to divest. I encourage you all to reflect today on the land that surrounds you, wherever you are, to take a moment to do that. Thank you. So this beginning of the third series of the Transform Learning series is all about moving images, digital curation through WhatsApp in support of gender transformation and human rights. And I will be introducing the various speakers as we go along, but just before I start that, just a few household or housekeeping rules or housekeeping guidelines on this. We will, as I say, be recording this whole presentation today. It will be up on YouTube afterwards. And in the chat, we will put the link for how you can actually access this during the session. We are recording this, so if you don't want your face or name to appear, please just keep your camera off. And we will have opportunities for questions and comments as we go along. But while we're doing that, while people are speaking, please leave yourself on mute. Thank you. So, moving images, digital curation. Next slide, please, Emmy. This project today, studying impact in participatory visual work with young people, is very much a key project of the Transform Engaging with Young People for Social Change project, which is a 5 to 6 year project funded by Social Sciences and Humanities. And maybe next slide. Next slide, please. So it actually has three main components. It's all about working with young people in 8 to 10 countries around the world. And you're going to be hearing more about those countries, and I'm going to be showing you a little map of where we are. But it's really about thinking about the ways in which young people can be agents of change in relation to disrupting gender norms, or what the term we're using is gender transformation. And the key methodology or the key framework for that is around participatory visual and arts-based methodologies. Today, you're going to see a beautiful example, I think, of the type of participatory visual and arts-based work that young people have been using. But also how they have been spreading the word and how they have been connecting up to see this not just as individual work, but a kind of a groundswell of work on gender transformation across many, many different countries. Next slide, please. Gender transformation, and the photograph here is from one of the participants in Mexico. Disrupting gender norms refers to addressing the root causes of gender inequalities in order to transform unequal gender norms, relations, and intersecting power structures to create lasting and equitable social change. I think we have no shortage of examples of why this is so important and why this is so important right now in terms of the urgency of so many backlashes, feminist backlashes in relation to youth rights, backlashes in relation to many different many different components of young people's lives and people's lives more broadly. So this notion of gender transformation and how we can have this groundswell of spread and reach of changing and disrupting gender norms is so critical. Next slide, please. The piece that we're going to be reporting on today comes out of a project within a project. Earlier, or actually late in 2024 and early in 2025, young people in 8 countries all engaged in a photo voice project where they took photographs about gender issues in my community, challenges and solutions. This was like quite an exciting piece because it was the first time, it was one of the first main activities of Transform that really brought young people together and to kind of think through what are the issues and what would they look like if you tried to photograph them. Then what happened is that all the young people in these 8 countries, about 250 young people with their community leaders, sent the photographs into a common archive, and at a summit held in Durban, South Africa in February earlier this year, young people came together to look at all of these photographs and to begin to see how could they put these together in the form of an exhibition. Next slide, please. On this map, you can see where all the photographs came from Eskasoni in Canada, Mexico City, Bamako in Mali, Jos in Nigeria, Bauchi in Nigeria, Monduli in Tanzania, Lilongwe in Malawi, Teachers College in Sierra Leone, a project on youth with disabilities, GAF in RFP in Sierra Leone, and 3 sites in South Africa, in Hlatikulu, Utingo, and Wentworth. This is like quite amazing. And of course, since that time, even more youth have been involved in taking these pictures. But this was kind of like the piece that we're going to be talking about today, where the collection that we're going to talk about in relation to WhatsApp came from. Next slide, please. So the piece today is all about how to bring together this amazing exhibition. You're going to be hearing about it, of Youth United Will Never Be Defeated, which was the title that the youth at the summit decided was the perfect title for these photographs of these images. And today we're really reporting on a kind of a project within a project, which is to say, what would it look like if we used a platform like WhatsApp to get the word out, to get this exhibition out? And we were so delighted to be able to have a partnership with the Department of Equity, Ethics, and Population at McGill, who sponsored the McBurney Fellowship, Equitas, and you're going to be hearing from Dr. Candace Blake Amarante, who has been heading up the piece on this project on WhatsApp, and then Transform itself as the project to work together to figure out how could we bring these images together and how could we actually work with this using a platform like WhatsApp. So the session today is really all about how could the WhatsApp exhibition reach young people? What are we learning about this? And where are we going with this? It's kind of exciting to think through how gender travels or doesn't travel, and how we might actually think about tools like WhatsApp or other social media platforms and messaging platforms, how they might help us to get the word out, how they might also help us connect. And I think that idea of connection. So today you're going to be hearing from 3 speakers. The first speaker is going to be Dr. Candace Blake Amarante from Equitas, and this organization, which is one of the NGO partners with Transform, has an amazing record of really addressing human rights. And I think we can all agree that gender equity and disrupting gender norms is a critical part of that. So we're going to hear from Candace first. Following Candace, and I'll introduce Michelle again as we get closer to this, but Michelle Fu, who was an intern first with Deep, and then she is the person who holds the McBurney Fellowship in this project, and now a student in the Faculty of Law at McGill University who's going to tell us how we set this up. And then we're going to hear from Emmy Romero from Transform, who's in communications and who has been really leading and working through the What's Up piece. As we go along, we're probably going to hear from a few youth who've also been involved in this, and we'll introduce them as we get there. But that's kind of like the plan for the day, for the session. And again, to remind you to use the chat wherever you can if you have a burning question you want to put out there. But also, we will remember, I think, to stop along the way to offer opportunities for questions and to offer questions or opportunities for comments. So I think we will move right into Candace's presentation. Over to you, Candace, and thank you so much for being here this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening. Okay, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction, Claudia. My name is Candace Blake Amarante. I'm the Knowledge Manager at Equitas. I'm going to briefly talk to you about who we are as an organization, what we do, where we work, and how we've been working with Michelle on this project. As I mentioned, as a knowledge manager at Equitas, I'm responsible for leading the development and implementation of Equitas's knowledge strategy in collaboration with the Director of Education. I lead, develop, and facilitate workshops at internal and international events for staff and international participants. I also look into ways to harvest knowledge that exists in the organization to create and produce activities and products that we share with the wider human rights education community, like this one with Michelle. Equitas in Latin means justice, equity, and fairness. It was formerly known as the Canadian Human Rights Foundation, founded in 1967 as a nonprofit, non-governmental organization by a group of eminent Canadian scholars and social activists, including the co-drafter of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, John Peter Humphrey, who is also a professor of law at McGill, including the women's rights activist Thérèse Casgrain, and Dr. Gustave Gingras, who was the ambassador of persons with disabilities. Based in Montreal, Equitas is Canada's leading human rights organization that partners with people, communities, institutions, and organizations around the world to confront growing threats of rights and democratic values. Through education, Equitas equips people to understand, claim, and exercise their rights. Next slide, please. We provide knowledge, skills, and tools to support the empowerment of groups that are subject to discrimination, exclusion, and other forms of human rights violations, particularly women, children, and youth. Equitas believes that a human rights-based approach is fundamental to achieving sustainable development and social change so that nobody's left behind. We educate people on how to claim their rights, hold decision makers, in particular duty bearers, accountable, and take action to ensure respect, protection, and the fulfillment of human rights. Through human rights education activities that address systemic discrimination, exclusion, and other forms of human rights violations, Equitas contributes to changing attitudes and behaviors and provide the type of learning experiences that empower people to emerge as human rights change makers. Next slide, please. We work closely with many partners in Canada and around the world, in Burkina Faso, Haiti, Kenya, Tanzania, Senegal, and the Middle East and North Africa region. Next slide, please. And we contribute to the field of practice through our flagship international human rights training program, regional programs in digital spaces like the Equitas community, where we pilot new strategies and ways of working locally and internationally. Equitas collectively contributes to the field of human rights by increasing efficiency and accessibility of tools and processes to support knowledge flow, reinforcing principles of decolonization, anti-racism, trauma-informed, gender transformation for participatory action research in our knowledge development approach. Next slide, please. For instance, at Equitas, we use this diagram as a means to capture our evolving conceptualizations of human rights education and complementary approaches and their implications. We understand trauma as the basis from which concerns for human rights stem. The human rights-based approach, in turn, is designed to address the very traumas stemming from human rights violations. The different approaches emerge from the trauma humans experience because of violations against their persons and towards others, which can be due to various factors, including, but not limited to, gender, race, disabilities, sexual orientation, and a combination of factors like intersectionality, as well as socio-political factors such as power asymmetries due to colonization and neocolonization. These traumatic experiences are not exhaustive, but can account for other violations that have yet to be defined. Each approach takes into account and addresses the specific lived and living experiences of people and or groups of people whose rights have been violated for various reasons. All of these approaches point to the overarching umbrella of the human rights-based approach, the ideal encompassing all human lived and living experiences. We therefore invite those developing projects using the participatory action research like moving images, digital curation on WhatsApp in support of gender transformation and human rights, to do so via human rights education lens, which encourages reflection on the human rights-based approach and complementary approaches that are integral to social justice efforts. Now we will turn to Michelle Fu, who will demonstrate how this can be done in practice via digital curation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia and Candice, for the wonderful introduction. So yeah, as mentioned earlier, I'm Michelle. I'm a current law student, and I worked with both the PCL and Equitas over the summer in this Moving Images project with the McBurney Fellowship. But for the purposes of today, we're going to be talking a bit about all things digital. So how we digitize the Youth United exhibition, what we learned, and how we can apply these lessons in the future. So as Candice just told you about the guiding approaches to kind of social policy and education, I want to kind of connect them a little bit more to the case study that we're going to be discussing today. So first, we have, the human rights-based approach. I think pretty transparently, the Transform exhibition, like all forms of social action, is fundamentally about human rights. Photo voice, including the photos featured within the exhibition, is ultimately a means to an end, right? By encouraging youth to represent and reflect upon these gender injustices within their own community, the exhibition is an example of the human rights-based approach in practice. Same thing with the gender transformative approach, right? I think the exhibition is really about disrupting gender norms. The themes discussed in some of the photos you're about to see, I featured some of them in the slides themselves, from topics such as early marriage to education disparities, raise awareness on how gender-based issues look like around the world. Self-representation further contributes to these goals of like empowerment and like actual gender transformation. I think it's useful to be able to identify yourself with the most vulnerable members of your community, and therefore to recognize who should be empowered. And lastly, for the trauma-based approach, I think this approach is all about acknowledging the active and cumulative impact that trauma has on individuals and communities, and it's especially relevant to this participatory exhibition like this, where individual and collective traumas can sometimes be represented through creative means like photo voice. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Great. Okay, cool. So enough about what kind of inspired the exhibition. Let's talk a little bit more about the experience of kind of like digital curation and creating an archive online. So I think we, for a participatory digital archive, kind of refers to a multimedia collection of, visual, audio, or text files for the purposes of like online public display or, virtual community building. Really depends on what kind of your goals are. But basically in May, we started developing a digital archive based on the Traveling Youth United Will Never Be Defeated exhibition. I want to introduce these kind of like 3 connected guiding questions that we were using to kind of structure this project, right? So we didn't really know what it would look like, before. It was very much a learning experience that we're sharing with you all now. And it was very much a project that we did not have all the answers in mind. So the 3 things we had in mind is, number 1, what are the strengths of exhibiting on a informal kind of social media platform such as WhatsApp? What are some of the impacts of using this as our preferred means of digitization? Hasn't really been done before. We didn't really know if the youth would be engaged or if it would would be hard to use at all? And lastly, right, like how can this exhibit be used to further the goals of human rights awareness and education, right? We're hoping that youth will ultimately respond to this exhibit, be inspired to share or reflect, and be proud of their art being acknowledged in this way. And for the most part, I think this was pretty successful, but we'll see. I won't spoil the results later on. Next slide, please. Great. So you're probably wondering at this point, why WhatsApp? Like, why would you use, this social media, like, the app that you probably have on your phone? I mean, I use WhatsApp to like talk to my family on a very, casual, informal basis. Why would this be the means that we chose for a, kind of polished exhibition that we want to share with a lot of people? Well, to answer that question, I think accessibility is the name of the game. The idea behind using WhatsApp is to make this photo voice ultimately visible to and spark a dialogue with as many people as possible. WhatsApp is already incredibly widely used. It's a very quick and efficient means of communication worldwide. I believe it's available in over 180 countries. On the flip side, even for curative purposes, I think if you're someone who's new to this, field, WhatsApp is, informal. There are individual archival options. You can back up chats, you can save screenshots to your own records management systems, you can export functions that capture the chronology and structure of messages. And in general, there's like a very low barrier of access, I think, when we want to, ensure active participation and people who haven't really had much experience like curating a museum, which how many of us really is that, to feel comfortable and confident creating a kind of digital exhibition from the comfort of their own like mobile phone. Next slide, please. Great. So this leads us to the kind of pre-release planning stage, which really took place in 3 main phases, as I have pictured on that little timeline below. So first, we were really focused on kind of brainstorming and development. We were at this point weighing formats, different platforms based on higher versus lower tech options, considering alternatives such as website or gallery style exhibitions, which we could still look into to further digitize or further develop this exhibition, and considering things like WhatsApp or Instagram on the other hand. I've gone over the reasons why we went with WhatsApp. So number 2, we kind of designed the exhibition, getting to know the platform a little bit. I'll get more into the specific knickknacks that we had to iron out, and actually, give a little how-to, and if you want to imitate this exhibition yourself. And then we, kind of finished up the final touches. This was really about considering audience experience in the equation. So how would users navigate the exhibition? Is it going to be entirely self-guided? How are we going to have engagement? Do we want to, have a shared group chat? And how do we want to moderate the exhibit to kind of alleviate the burden on the user or the participant side as much as possible, right? I think, with the thing that we really didn't want here is for you to have to, go through a bunch of extra work to access this exhibition. Like we were really kind of hoping to take on most of the heavy lifting. Next slide, please. Great. So now you're probably very eager to kind of hear about what the exhibition actually looks like. So, here it is. I've included some of the screenshots like on this slide. The final exhibition, as you can see, took place in the form of a WhatsApp community with these individual groups for both displaying the images and their captions in the exhibition gallery chat, and also a feedback and engagement group chat where people were able to actively participate and reflect on the photos themselves. You're able to access the full gallery in the media links and docs section, as you can see at the very right. I think this is a very beautiful way to see all of these images, and essentially youth were able to see all 30 photo voices from the Youth United traveling exhibition from their own mobile devices. More or less, we found this to be quite successful. We got some heartfelt responses and reflections from the exhibit, which Emmy will get into later on. And I think the beauty of this format is that it is very easily replicated for those sharing in our gender transformative or educational goals. Beyond a curation or beyond exhibitioning, this is an example of like successful organizing on a digital platform. Next slide, please. So by this point, you're probably very curious on, or I hope you are, of how we, pulled this off, right? So I'm going to provide a quick how-to, and I've included ample screenshots to just kind of illustrate the process, right? So basically what we did is we kind of created a WhatsApp community on the phone. You are able to go into some of the design elements on the side. You choose an exhibition name, photo icon, write a short bio. I think the strengths of this is that you can have a shared group, but individual, additional chats can exist under this community umbrella, which makes it easier to have like different, like themes or different sections to your exhibition as you'd like. Next slide. Next, you can go ahead and create the exhibition groups. They're usually located in buttons at the bottom or in the top right of your screen. And then you can go ahead and manually add the group members or further design. This is the part where you really get to flex your creative muscles. You can add an artist statement in the group description. You can customize your own image. I don't know, I found this part to be very fun. Next slide. Steps 4 and 5 are the main tips that are probably the most important tips, I think, if you're looking to adopt this project for yourself, which is updating your community settings and inviting members. So updating the community settings is really important because we didn't want to have like a kind of unmoderated space where everybody was spamming constantly all the time. I think that's kind of the line between, social media platform and the exhibition that we were trying to make. So I think it's important to, set the permissions to only the admin so they can add new members and add groups. And for step 5, then you can go ahead and start inviting your members. The way that we did this is by sharing this link, this WhatsApp link in various like email blasts with the kind of greater Transform community to kind of create a cool spider web of contacts of like researchers and collaborators that really helped to make this exhibition what it was. And I'll talk more about the strengths of that later. Next slide. All right, so for the kind of like last step of this, last step before launching, I think what really helped the exhibition run smoothly is to set up your kind of announcements channel. So for the purposes of, digital curation, this announcements channel kind of acted as our introductory panel. The first thing you see when you walk into the museum, you kind of hear a little bit of what the curator's intent was. You kind of hear some, tips or kind of suggestions on how to experience the like creative experience that you're about to have, right? So since the announcements channel is always visible, right, it's pinned at the top of your screen, any users who join the community will be immediately directed to this. And I think that it really like helped to clarify kind of like what a digital exhibition would look like, because we were able to use this space to do general announcements, provide some context on the traveling exhibition, as you can see like in that screenshot in the middle, and also provide an exploration guide on how to actually, use and navigate through the exhibition. So, this includes things like the messages are organized in a reverse chronological order, so you don't have to scroll all the way up and then scroll like down like by yourself. You can view the entire experience in, this specific tab. And after you're done, please head over to, feedback and engagements if you want to discuss with any of the other members. But yeah, I think this is ultimately what helped everything to run smoothly. Next slide. Right, so these are more examples of the exhibition itself. Once you have all of those steps done, you can pretty much upload your captions and get ready to launch. This is kind of what it would look like on your actual phone. And I have some more, gallery photos, but as I've mentioned, I've dispersed the photos throughout this presentation as well. Next slide. Great. So, after hearing about this, digital exhibition, I want to talk a little bit more about what we think worked most, and potentially what challenges we got into, right? So I think what was really successful is, number one, this self-guided format. Many users were already familiar kind of with the WhatsApp format and found it very easy to use. And many of the youth actually voiced their kind of interest and engagement with this platform because they were already very familiar with it. So I think that really played very well into our goals of accessibility and human rights education on that front. Number two is we released several different rounds of prompts with different types of questions. So we were interested in gauging what you thought about the actual format itself. We were also interested in what their response was to the images shown, right? I think the way that we did it, which was 3 rounds of prompts, on different kind of like on slightly different subject matter each time, allowed more people to participate and discuss in the chat, and ultimately like reflect on these images over a little bit of a longer timeline. And lastly, I think the biggest immediate so what of this exhibition is the purposes for future outreach, right? So even after the exhibition, the kind of like spider web of contexts and networks that we've already created will continue to exist, right? We can use, I think it plays into the strengths of this exhibit that we, have organized this broader outreach list, and we can like use these contacts of, people who are passionate about the same projects that we are, to, organize and raise awareness about future Photo Voice events or initiatives. Next slide, please. Great, but let's get a little bit more into some of the challenges because, two sides of every coin kind of situation. So I have two more technical and then one more about facilitation. So firstly, there was a little bit of a chat history problem, and this is something to note if you're interested in replicating this project for yourself, because users can only access message history from after the moment they join a community or group. The photos themselves can only be uploaded once everyone is kind of already in the community. So it's a little bit hard to coordinate. You can't add people throughout. You have to make sure all the people you want to be there for the initial first release of your exhibition have already joined. And this, we gave people about like a week to 7 to 10 days in order to make sure that everyone was, in the exhibition successfully. It may be like, however, I will say that it may be useful if you are interested in releasing kind of different exhibitions at more spread out intervals, right? Like we spoke about, releasing another exhibition in, 6 months, a year. And you can continue to do things like this because you can grow, add more people, and then release it at a separate time, right? Number two is a little point about exhibition organization. I have more like illustration of this, like a visualization of this in later slides, so I won't go into too much detail. But basically, we had to minimize the number of extra chats in the exhibition for like an easier audience experience. I think the main lesson here is just that simpler is better, especially when you're organizing on an intended large scale, right? So if we wanted to grow this project at all, I think just minimizing the amount of like, questions that would be asked on the other side. And lastly, and I think this is more of an interesting challenge that we ran into, is this question of like safeguarding concerns. So while organizing the exhibition, we actually ran into some content and privacy concerns for some of the youth participating, involving specific images or specific photo voice, featured in the exhibit. And the solution we basically found was we had to trade off some of our community feedback and discussion goals with our safeguarding responsibilities as facilitators. So we ended up creating an alternative exhibition for this group of youth in specific, right? So they maybe got to speak to or discuss with in the feedbacks chat, a slightly smaller group, but this was ultimately what had to be done for them to experience the exhibition at all. I think this is an example of the importance of balancing these kind of like theoretical and academic, paradigms with their tangible like impact, right? Like obviously you can take things like this on a case-by-case basis, but especially with things like privacy or content concerns, it's definitely sometimes something to keep in mind when designing in a digital space, and it's something that's going to be increasingly relevant with the proliferance of social media, AI, and the internet in everyday life. Next slide, please. Oh, great. So this is just, more illustration of some of the exhibit organization problems, just to show like how we really progressed, over, from May to like the actual launch. So this is our initial sitemap for how we wanted the exhibition to be organized. So as you saw in the screenshot earlier, where there was just like 2 group chats, this would have separated the exhibition based on kind of like submission location. So we had, all of these different groups for the different locales where these photos were coming from, which is, all around the world, as you saw in Claudia's map earlier on. I think the thought behind this was that it would be like more of a, gallery format. Like it'd be a little bit more maybe organized. Like if you're walking through, an exhibit like in a physical space. But ultimately, what ended up happening is many people got a little bit confused, or like we anticipated that many people would get confused over whether or not they could only join the country where they came from, whether or not like these were, set groups for, set locations. And it just became a little bit too much of a headache. What we ended up going with on the next slide is this much more streamlined, oh my gosh, my headache has disappeared, kind of organization, which included simply, the announcements channel, which had the exploration guide, had the setup, had the artist statement, and these two groups, one where you can go see the photo voice, see the exhibition gallery, see the artwork, and another where you can discuss, reflect, and respond to some of the prompts that we would provide as facilitators. Great, next slide. Great. So now I'm going to actually pass it over to Emmy, who's going to talk a little bit more about the, post-release kind of impacts and show you a little bit more about, show you a little bit of the responses that we received to the exhibition. But yeah, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I know my screen says Participatory Cultures Lab, but my name is Amelia Vera, and I just wanted to thank you everyone for coming today. So I'll be presenting a bit of the findings or the outcomes of our whole digital exhibition. So we started it on July 25th, and it is still ongoing. It's been about 6 weeks of us engaging with everyone on the chat. But in total, in the communities, as Michelle described earlier, we had 91 participants. And out of those 91, 72 joined the gallery exhibition. So 72 people viewed it. And then 80 people joined the feedback and engagement where, we asked our questions, which are these. So we had 3 rounds of questions. The first round was really focused on the initial thoughts and feelings that participants had when seeing the exhibition, when receiving it on their phones. While the second round was mostly focused on the themes, patterns, and issues that they were finding as they were going through the exhibition. And the third round really was kind of like a concluding all the engagement and feedback that we had in the exhibition, on the exhibition. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples specifically from the question. So the first question of round 1 was, what are your first thoughts after seeing the exhibition make you feel? So this person said, seeing the exhibition really touched me deeply. The images on sexual abuse, physical violence, female circumcision, and gender-based violence were painful to watch, but necessary. It was especially disturbing to see how young girls and boys, especially Al-Majirai, are being neglected, abused, and stripped of their rights. The picture opened my eyes to the reality that so many children live in fear and pain every day. I believe it's our duty as a society to raise awareness, speak up, and protect every child, especially the most vulnerable. Then round 1, question 2. How does seeing photos from your country in the exhibition make you feel? So seeing our South African pictures showcased in this exhibition fills me with hope that the change we're striving for is within reach. I'm proud that our work is being recognized globally, something that I never thought possible. But I firmly believe that the change we desire is attainable. We just need to persevere, taking it one step at a time. Let's continue to push forward, and I'm confident that our collective efforts will yield the results we so eagerly await. So these are really representative of the general feel or responses that people were posting on the feedback and engagement chat. But this is one of the most important questions. How do you feel about using WhatsApp as an exhibition space? So this person said that I feel excited. Using WhatsApp made me feel deeply connected, and it was like art came into my personal world, speaking to me. And also it was innovative and inclusive approach, a creative way to view an exhibition. It allowed me to access photos easily on my phone, which is a great feedback. So for round two, as I said earlier, is the themes and issues that they found. So really, it was what they found was a lot on youth vulnerability, gender violence and gender inequality, poverty and vulnerability, drug abuse. But overall, what really stood out and what a lot of participants talked about was the resilience and hope that came despite all these challenges, which is it's really great that there's really more and a determination for social change. And now, the general consensus for this question, do you think art or photography can help people understand each other better, was yes. It does, art does help, but I really think that the following quote encapsulates not only the consensus of the participants, but the experience of the digital exhibition in general. So yes, absolutely. Art and photography have a unique way to create better, understand each other, easily because they communicate emotions, experiences, and perspectives in ways that words alone often cannot. They create empathy. A single photograph of someone experiencing sexual violence or inequality can make others feel what that person feels, even if they live in completely different circumstances. They cross language barriers. Virtual art doesn't require translation or more explanation. People from different cultures can still connect to the same image or artwork. And they share untold stories. Photography and art can highlight voices and experiences that might otherwise go unheard, such as marginalized communities or personal struggles. They challenge assumptions. Seeing life through someone else's lens can break stereotypes and broaden our understanding. And this just really encapsulates all these beautiful chats that were coming in throughout the 6 weeks. And after really monitoring or facilitating the chat throughout the 6 weeks, I ended up with more questions rather than answers or conclusions. And I think for anyone else wanting to create this kind of work on a messaging platform like WhatsApp, these are just, I think, questions to consider. So how can the facilitator strike the right balance between engaging with participants and avoiding interrupting the natural flow, the conversation? That was a big one for me. And what strategies can we use to encourage participants to share their thoughts freely? So really reminding them that the contributions don't need to be big statements, but simply reflections of the moment. Because sometimes receiving such a big question can be a bit of pressure. And I know I can speak for myself, sometimes I just want to put my best answer forward. So yeah, but the whole idea is to just kind of reflect as you go. Though this platform really was meant to be kind of a youth to youth engagement, it sometimes was very hard because there was just so many people in the group chats. So maybe consider smaller groups could be easier for engagement. And life can get a little bit in the way. So we did have a very long timeline. So maybe a shorter timeline could create more engagement in the end. But that's enough for me. So thank you very much. But to provide us insider knowledge on the digital exhibition is TK. So thank you very much, TK. TK is one of the leaders from Hlatikulu, South Africa, and he is dedicated to advancing his skills as a researcher, particularly when it comes to social issues. So now, to talk about the WhatsApp exhibition itself, I will hand over the floor to TK. So where I saw him in here. So I'm gonna leave the floor to him.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Um, Firstly, I would apologize for joining the meeting lately. I've been struggling with in terms of joining in and the signal. But then I'm very thankful for the opportunity that is given to me to also share what has been touching and what I've experienced on the WhatsApp exhibition. I don't know if everyone can hear me properly.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. As I've been introduced, that my name is TK. So most definitely I'm here to share, my experience based on the WhatsApp exhibition. So first I'm gonna start with what was my experience with the digital exhibition, which was done probably on WhatsApp. Well, my experience was very exciting because the exhibition was more about personal reflection, questions, which were directed to everyone. So that was also exciting, So each person got to like answer those questions as an individual, which was more like an exploring in terms of your own thoughts, emotions, and connections to the exhibition, you know. And then following it with the feelings that I was having during the exhibition, it felt so safe for me. I really felt so happy and safe to share my experiences. I was there all alone, answering all the questions as an individually, which also made it so easier for me to not like fear who's gonna like judge me on my side or who's gonna talk against me while I'm talking or who's gonna be looking at me. Those are some of the things which can sometimes, like make a delusion in terms of someone's thoughts. So by me being alone, it's made like everything to feel so easy. I managed to connect with others, even though the participating team was not on that point. But by me having to participate, I was so excited with doing that. Most definitely. So I got to even share my thoughts and even my imaginations based on the previous summit which we had on February 13 in Durban at Umhlanga here in South Africa. So as I was there, I also got to participate in discussing that I can in discussing in issues which are relating to gender, which I got to relate a lot because they are actually affecting and seeing that they are not affecting on my country only and they are also affecting in other countries. That also got me excited and like, okay, cool. So maybe I'm gonna even also be able to find some resolutions in other people who are actually, taking or telling more about the issues that they are affecting in their countries. So yeah, it was very organized, I can say, and it was very planned. It also gave, some time to think through. Whenever you ask the questions, like you were not like gonna jump in early and answer quickly, but you get to like think of the questions thoroughly so that you can be able to to know what you have to answer and at what time do you have to answer, after you have like felt confident enough, to type that message or to send that voice note in order for you to ask something or to answer something, which is very interesting. And then also, even the choices of participating were given, which made it so to be so easy. Why am I saying so? Like there was a choice for you to type a message or to even send a voice note. Some of people, can like can be able to express their feelings, emotions, and their ideas through typing, in a very formal way. And some of people prefer mostly to use like voice notes. People says that they can be able to express themselves, in terms of speaking, being heard using the voice verbally. So which can sometimes, makes more sense to other people, which was very exciting also because it gave that platform to everybody. And then it's also got me to understand, some immersive storytelling, which included historical telling. Some people were actually referencing things that are actually happening in their countries and also quoting some of the historical things which happened into their countries, which also made it easier for us to understand that how are these actually gender norms are like being explored, to other people, even to people who does not even understand about it. So I would actually recommend that we use more like of live videos in future of our WhatsApp exhibition. Reason why it's because there is but by the time we were participating, yes, some of people got to participate, but I can say that the participation was not 100%, stating reason why the probability was more like 15.38% of people who participated in the exhibition. So the reason why I'm saying that is because we had 39 participants, right, which were added on the group, but it seemed like 7 or 6 of people participated in the exhibition, which made it so hard for us to actually figure out what is the issue that other people are actually facing in their countries and how we can be able to come up with the resolve, like solution that we can bring on the table so that people can be able to know to bring that things that they have already used in order for them to like resolve some of the issues that were brought on the table by the time we're having the exhibition. Therefore, also I guess this can also eliminate the dead airspace. Some of people are actually like scared, to come up first in terms of answering, and then they ended up forgetting that there was a certain question that was raised on the exhibition. Therefore, by us having some live conversations, that can also help those people to like, okay, someone has already answered, then I can also be able to jump in. And some of people do not have answers. They prefer to be like supporting. So therefore that platform of live chats can also assist other people, to like get into the conversation like that, in terms of relation. But then I think this was most exciting. It was exciting to an extent that we can be able to share it to general publicans, to make it accessible to anyone interested in attending. By that, we can be able to get like more of knowledge and more of ideas and solutions on how we can come up with resolving this, which can be also exciting, And also, trade visitors, guys, we have trade visitors, right? Trade visitors can also assist us in terms of coming up with their resolution. Remember, the reason why we are actually doing that is to ensure that we are actually transforming by any means any gender norms or any norms that we are actually facing in our countries, except the gender norms. So that can also contribute also to students and children, VIPs and also journalists. Oh, I love the one for journalists because journalists are people who can actually publish anything if ever they find it, so captive and so interesting. So this is one of the most interesting things that we are actually dealing with in our countries, societies, and in everywhere we are going, actually, I can say. So by us actually, sharing it with them, it can also, bring some awareness, spread. I'm sorry, you can bring like awareness and also make the exhibition to spread via articles, storytelling and school to school tour. So yeah, in public places like clinic, hospitals, jails, even on the high institutions where mostly look, kids in the high institutions are the one that I can say they experience like mostly this thing because they find it so hard for them to be in a relaxation position or in their comfort zone whenever they are there because they are scared of what can happen to them if ever they find people who are judgmental, people who are homophobic. Mostly like in here in South Africa, the major issue is based on gender inequality in terms of people who are more like in LGBTQI member. Those people are the people who are actually, like I can say that they are actually discriminated in some way. So by us bringing it to also high institution, it can also make it easy for other people to understand very clearly. Because remember, whenever you are getting to a high institution, it is where by now we are actually transforming your mind from being a child to an adult. Because that's where you get to like live life and experience the real life there. So by us having to also implement this on the high institution, it can also help. So yeah, I'm excited, guys. I'm really excited for me to be the part of this. And I promise that I'm gonna be the part of this until I see or notice the change in our countries as well as in our societies. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, TK. That was great. I really appreciate that, and thank you for taking the time to join. Thank you. I will. Does anyone have questions for TK? No? Okay.
There are some questions in the chat. Maybe TK, like one from Misty. Do you want to read that one out?
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
let me check
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah. So Emmy, do you want to read the question and then?
Yes. So when you were answering the questions, were you able to see the photos or did you have to go and search for them? Did you need to go find them?
Uh, I'm on the chat right now, but then on my side, I don't know, maybe it's the language. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, maybe Emmy or Michelle can answer the question too because they're with it. So yeah.
Yeah, so since we divided the exhibition into two, there was one that was specifically for feedback and engagement, and the other one was the gallery exhibition. So we would put all the questions on the feedback and engagement, and if they wanted to recall the photos, they had to go to the other chat, and they could go through the media and search for a specific photo, or just kind of scroll through the chat again, but it wasn't happening. Unfortunately, it wasn't within one chat. Yeah.
Michelle or Emmy, does anyone have a question when we have TK here? Would you do it again if we have another exhibition, or would you like to start an exhibition? TK. Not sure.
Well,
we might have lost TK.
that's okay.
That's okay. We'll come back to that. If anyone puts any questions in the chat, we can redirect them at the very end as well. And I hope that answered your question, Misty. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh,
So I will hand it back over to Michelle, who will lead the last leg of this webinar.
Okay, great. Oh, sorry,
great.
TK, take the phone. Yeah.
TK's back. Okay.
Okay, forgive me about this. It was just a signal issue. Okay, cool. So the question was, would I like to try the exhibition again, right?
And another exhibition, a new one, or start one.
Yes. Most definitely, I would, but by me doing it, I think it would be more, exciting if ever we can try something like a live creation. Reason why live creation can actually bring people, on board. Like everybody can be able to, participate on the same time. In regardless of waiting for other people, to answer first so that they can be able to also answer. We can do it like here on the Zoom chat, like you're asking question and then I'm being participating immediately, unlike having to wait for a certain time for me to answer, which can end up make the exhibition to last or to take longer days, which is something that we don't want to do because we always want to minimize time. Remember, we cannot be able to buy time, but we can be able to minimize on time. Therefore, by us having something like a live chat, it can minimize the time that we can spend on the exhibition. But trust me, it is really a nice and an exciting opportunity for me to do this.
We have time for
Awesome.
one more question for TK. Does anyone
Yeah,
who's on
Misty put another one in the chat, and it's did you or others feel ever at risk in participating in this WhatsApp exhibit?
Beg your pardon?
Did you ever feel at risk receiving the photos in your phone?
At risk?
Yes.
Oh, not at all. I don't know. Maybe I have regained this mentality of positivity. By me being on the summit on the February, here in Durban at Umhlanga, one thing that was ensured to me is that whenever I'm the member of this project, I'm on the safe space. At all times, I'm never gonna be in the space whereby I feel unsafe. And that was proven, right? So by me having also to receive this WhatsApp exhibition, it actually put me in a space where I'm like, I'm more safer because I'm at home and I'm also getting to participate in a way that I want to do. Like, I don't have to wait for anyone, to drag me in order to participate, but I just participate whenever I feel like. And even if there are certain questions that have been raised and I don't feel like answering them, I also have a right to do that because I'm being ensured that it is a safe space. You do something that you want to do. And if you feel like you don't want to do it, therefore, you can just simply ignore it.
Great.
Amazing answer. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I was clear on that one.
I think it was a great answer.
It was.
There are some other questions in the chat that are more about research ethics, but we won't put you on the spot on those, TK. But we'll come back to those. But maybe is there one more question for TK before? Otherwise, we'll go back over to Michelle.
Okay, great. I'm not seeing any questions, but don't worry, there will be another period at the end. Yeah, thank you so much, TK, for your comments and your firsthand account of the exhibition. It's really great to hear that it was easy to participate and it helped to, do some of the things that we were hoping for it to do. But in this final section, I just want to kind of open up maybe the scope of this presentation and ask the question of what is the broader utility of digital curation and why does this work kind of matter in general, right? I think digital storytelling and archiving are necessary to open up frontiers for participatory action research into the future, right? The use of online platforms from YouTube videos to WhatsApp curation are an immediately accessible way for participants to position themselves as producers of social research data rather than perpetual boxed subjects, right? And furthermore, it's a great way to make this data available to a wider audience, on a worldwide scale. Given this, digital curation, or the process of documenting, preserving, and archiving materials online or in digital spaces, is more useful than ever, I think, as a tool of social activism and change for researchers and for the general public alike. I think for future consideration, it's worth it to interrogate, firstly, the nature of informal archives, including the role of the facilitator in that dynamic. Digital exhibiting allows for, numerous, stakeholders and individuals to be represented in the programming, but it's also important to kind of mutually decide upon the degree of participation from each actor involved and magnify, the voices that need to be magnified, right? I guess the question I'm asking here is what does it mean as a researcher or a facilitator to display stories that are not ours? How should the facilitation role ultimately look? And secondly, I think especially within a globalized, kind of borderless, often unregulated digital space, human rights advocacy becomes a sort of double-edged sword in this case. On one hand, you can make messages and art that much more impactful in terms of reach, immediacy, and cross-cultural communication, as we've just kind of heard across this presentation. But on the other hand, it also presents these new human rights education barriers in terms of government or corporate surveillance, misinformation, the potential for online harassment. These are all things that need to be taken into consideration when you're designing a project like this. Next slide, please. And yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of conclude this webinar with some further questions and things to consider for next steps, right? So on one hand, how can we continue to decentralize curation on and offline? And number two, what does digital exhibiting mean for the future of participatory visual work for furthering the goals of human rights education? My personal kind of I don't have the full answers, but I would say that the WhatsApp exhibition is really important here because it is, human rights education in practice in a couple of ways. It does so by addressing the digital divide. The platform is chosen for its low tech and its popular global user base so as to not exacerbate the inequalities we aim to target. It does so by providing a platform for both moving responses and action-oriented reflection amongst youth leaders within their community and outside of it. And I think most exciting about this kind of work is that this digital curation wave, so to speak, is just cresting, right? The work that we are currently doing is providing a basis for future forms of organizing, future forms of community building in a, increasingly, for better or worse, digitally reliant world. But that's what I would say about the WhatsApp exhibition. I hope you're as excited about this project as we are. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of transition into some more, questions and comments and open discussion if anybody has anything they want to share. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. There is a question in the chat from Amelia Gonzalez. Oh, my favorite question. Hello, what an engaging method that I can see being very accessible and stimulating in many regions in the world. As a researcher, I wonder if you have any insights, lessons learned about getting REB approval for this creative project. Good question. I'll take a little stab at it, but I will also, I know there are lots of other people on the chat on Zoom who might have some ideas they want to add as well. We because this is a kind of a large transnational project, our initial REB for phase one was to actually have all the have permission from youth to use their photographs in a public way. So people, when they created their when they sent in their photos from their sites, they agreed that they could be on on a public platforms. We also, of course, used them in the summit, the Transform Summit in Durban, and so on. So that part was kind of covered. We kind of are looking at this as a knowledge mobilization activity. So the actual researching of the images, we're kind of researching the efficacy of what's up more than we are researching the specific images and how they're being used in this. I would say for a follow-up, what we would like to do in a future one would be to make sure that we actually can do research with the youth about their images in WhatsApp. So we kind of separated it between kind of a meta level of studying WhatsApp as a tool, but not necessarily how the specific images were being read, versus a later project where we will be looking at the images in more detail, and I think would be a piece that we would take back to the REB. I hope the REB people, if they're at McGill, are listening, they agree with that. Okay. And Amelia, if you have other questions or a follow-up, please feel free to jump in and say it here or put another question in the chat. Okay. Other questions or comments or thoughts of how you might want to use this in your own work? Misty, you can jump in. You've got wild ideas you've got great ideas. Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
Oh, thanks, Claudia. I love what you've done. It is so impressive on so many levels. And Claudia knows that I'm interested in WhatsApp as a digital curation tool, research tool to work with teachers. And so I'm just blown away. I have like a million ideas at this point. And thank you so much for allowing us all to be a part of this and to hear how powerful it is for all the stakeholders. So yeah, I think I'm most excited by the projects within the projects and all the different possibilities that can stem from this the starting point. So thank you.
Thank you. And you should know, Misty, I'm famous for putting people on the spot, so I'm sorry. Okay. Sakiko had a question. I can't see now I can't see the chat.
I can read it.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask a bit of a follow-up question regarding safety, as there was a feedback that some photos about sexual abuse / early marriages are painful to see, but necessary. There could be a possibility of triggering negative feelings for certain people with lived experience. I would like to hear more about how to make sure some impactful images with heavy topics can be presented in a safe way at the virtual exhibition.
Great question. Does anyone want to answer it, or I could have a stab at it. Maybe just to say that all of the images it's a very important question. All of the images that were in the exhibition were produced by the youth already. So many of them had seen them in an in-person exhibition back in their own sites. So I think I kind of skipped over this a little bit at the beginning. I was like wildly thinking about translation or something. But first of all, youth in their own communities would have produced these in a pretty safe environment because they were all working with a community leader. I know Ruby is online here. She was one of the people who would have supported the youth in Sierra Leone. So at the production or creation stage, there would have been a lot of support. When we had the summit in South Africa, we also had a great deal of support for supporting these, and we had like a full-time psychologist present for the entire summit to take up any questions that people had at the time, and there were a few or concerns. So, but then we put it back out into the same world. So all of the youth who were the 91 youth, all the people whose WhatsApp numbers we had were youth who were part of the original productions. So this is it's kind of a special group. So it went back to the same groups of people. That doesn't mean that people wouldn't have perhaps had a new potential for re-traumatizing, and I think that's something that we should try to think about. And when Michelle mentioned earlier that we actually had one group, we actually ended up having two groups. In one of the sites, the leaders felt that there were some images that they thought would be perhaps challenging or would be inappropriate to go back to them. So we removed those 5 or 6 images, and in their exhibition, which was already a large group in and of themselves, but it was only they were only in one country site, and they didn't have opportunities to talk to people in all the other countries, but they did have opportunities to talk to each other because they're not all in the same community. So in that case, I think there was that type of safeguarding was a key part of that. So it was to really make sure that from the views and perspectives of the very experienced community leaders who were working with youth, these were images that they felt would be appropriate. And again, it still doesn't mean that there will be no possibilities, but I think it is one that is absolutely critical. And of course, when we think about the impact of images on social media outside of a project like this, we know that there is a great deal to be thought about. So I think it's an amazing question, and it's certainly one that we keep going back to every time we ask the question, how does gender travel? And as TK pointed out, like, for whom are these images safe and for whom are these images unsafe in their particular communities? So thank you. We have a few more minutes. So any more questions here?
There is a great question from Sani that was posted in the. Oh, do you want to read? Do you want to say it, Sani?
Oh, okay. I raised my hand for another reason, but that's fine. I will also ask that question. So first of all, thank you so much for this really inspiring project and great presentation from all the guests. And it's really nice to see everyone, specifically my former colleagues in the PCL at Equitas. So it's great to meet you. Hi. So yeah, my question was, I was wondering, could people forward the images and messages from the exhibition group to, to others, and or were there any, settings in place to prevent the forwarding? And I was wondering why, if there was a setting or not. Um, uh, I also have another thought to share, but I'll wait for this and then I'll continue if there is time.
Okay, I'm going to pass this over to you, but before I do, only somebody whose birthday it is today would ask a question so profound. Okay, thank you. This is Hanny's birthday party, really. Okay, thanks,
Thanks.
Hanny.
Thanks, Claudia.
Michelle or Emmy or anyone else on the team or Candace, please jump in on this question.
For sure. Oh my gosh, happy birthday. Yeah, to answer your question, we did have settings in place so that you couldn't forward the images like outside. I think the main answer to that and why is it fundamentally ties back to safety. As Claudia mentioned, we had kind of a more unique group in terms of like managing safety and the comfort of like everybody involved. But it was important that like at least for this first run of the digital exhibition that we didn't have people kind of like forwarding these images or just posting them online kind of like willy-nilly. I think that would have done much more to like endanger the kind of youth featured and who produce these kinds of images. But yeah, I think that's the main thing. And yes, you can like turn this on and off in the WhatsApp like admin feature. So that's very nice.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Do I have time to share something? I mean, if
Only because
my
it's your
content.
birthday. Because it's your
Yeah,
birthday, you
okay,
get a second
perfect.
question. Okay.
Okay, I'll use that coupon.
Okay.
Okay, so because this was mentioned that there was a question about, if people had needed to how the flow of the. There was a question also on the screen. There was a consider item that how to keep the flow, but at the same time
Yeah.
engage people in the conversation. I was thinking of maybe you have taught all of these, and maybe these are not possible or possible. I don't know, but some thoughts I was thinking. First was. Having numbers for each image that people can refer to the numbers when they are providing feedback that I'm talking about this image or this number so that everyone can easily find that image in the story. The other idea I was thinking was to have to share to have image day. I don't know how to call it, but for example, to post one image in 24 hours and then let people to talk, feedback, share their ideas about that specific image, and then another day another image could be shared. I know there are some restrictions, times, other things, but just if possible to have a image. I mean, for each day have one specific image. And the third idea I was thinking could be alternative platforms. For example, Telegram has that option that the new people can see. You can change in the setting. The new people can see the history. So I know Telegram is not common in all countries or as common as WhatsApp, but there are some other platforms that give that possibility, get that those features. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry.
Great. Thank you very much. You're just scintillating no matter how old you get. That's lovely. Excellent suggestions. And I love we did think about a lot of other platforms, and as you guessed, WhatsApp is so popular in most of the contexts that we're using this. But I think trying to think through what other kinds of platforms and possibilities definitely to think about too. Okay. Do we have time for like another? Do we have? Yeah, we do. We have time for another question. Does anybody have another a comment or a? Candace, you want to just jump in because I know with the groups that you're working with, these possibilities of reaching people might be really critical. So if there's something that you want to jump in with right now, having heard so many questions and comments, that would be great.
Oh, no, I just wanted to follow up with what Sekiko mentioned about the safety and trauma. I think when I presented that the conceptualization of how we work at Equitas using these various approaches, we tend to use these guides, especially when working with youth. I don't know if Angie is still here. She's the director of the Canadian programs, and that's a component of Equitas that works directly with youth. So if she was still here, I would invite her to say something more about where and how we work with youth on these very issues. But most of the time in these settings, we would recommend having a focal person in these discussions to facilitate and navigate issues such as trauma and re-traumatizing. So if anybody would need to step out, or if because of certain issues, there is a person there with whom someone can speak. So just just to close that, not to close, but to just to supplement what you said, Claudia, on that. But in terms of reaching out to others in the community, this for us would be a wonderful way of connecting with the youth that we work with in Canada, as well as those that we would like to work with in the diaspora. On certain issues, especially on colonization, decolonization, and comparing the various problems that youth face in different settings. So no, this is just fantastic. I just wanted to just thank you for bringing us on to work with you on this, and to work with Michelle, Claudia. And we are looking forward to exploring new avenues on how we can use this in our community, especially with human rights educators and defenders who are not necessarily youth, but would like to find ways to share innovative ways of human rights education. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And maybe just to say that after we had the first exhibition with all the youth, and we thought it was very important, since they had produced the images, to be the ones to first kind of engage in the curation of that piece, that we decided it was high time that the research team of NGOs, co-investigators, and collaborators also got to participate. So we just launched this I think on Monday of this week. We, just getting the WhatsApp addresses out of people is like, I don't know, like putting nails in nails or something, but we got them. So there are now, I think, about 25 or so, maybe you can correct me, Amy, of the research team, all the adult members, researchers, who all have the exhibition. And I imagine that this is harder to get comments from, but Amy, do you have any quick, like first round ideas on this, or how it's going?
It was going pretty well. There's a fair amount of people being like, oh, excited at the start. But we have, yeah, I think we have 25 members of various countries and various organizations. So we haven't started the engagement process yet, but we will ask a question and see how that goes. But unlike the other exhibition, this is all going to happen within one chat to kind of like test out an alternative.
So
and that's what we have so far.
For everybody out there who's on this, please start responding, and we will be following this up maybe. And maybe just to say, maybe you could put in the chat, if people want to just visit the exhibition without WhatsApp, and you just want to see the pictures, the whole collection, as well as some of the process photos and the curatorial statement from Youth United Will Never Be Defeated, is up on the Transform website. So I think we sent it out anyway, but if we just put it in the chat again, so that people want to actually go and see the photos and the captions, I think that's very important. And maybe just to say that has been one of our ongoing challenges and celebrations, is to make sure that the photos and the captions, what people say about their photos, stay together. We are often inundated with people saying, oh, we just want to look at the pictures, but these were produced as photo voice, where the photos and what people say about their photos, or what they want you to see in their photos, is part of that. So all of the captions and all of the photos are up on the Transform website. I think that's it. Is that it? So we have a couple of announcements, or do we have one announcement? We have one announcement.
Just a couple announcements for our next webinar, which will be happening on Wednesday, September 24th, around at the same time. So 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and on Zoom. And we will get the registration link, but you can also scan the QR code. And it will be on youth, gender, and climate justice. We will have, I think, co-investigator Blaine and some of his RAs as well. participating in this webinar, so it will be great. So we will hope to see you all there, and we will be sending a big invitation to everyone as well.
And I think Barbados is joining the world of Transform, because we're going to be hearing from young people in Barbados and other countries as well. And Shannon Weeks, who is online, I don't know if she wants to just give a wave. She is kind of leading the Barbados side of this, and Transform gets bigger and bigger till we take over the whole world. Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else? Are you there, Shannon? Do you want to wave? There.
She gave us a heart.
She gave a heart. Yay. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Any last points? I think, have we missed anything? No, we haven't.
Just for me, one last thing. You can find the recording of this webinar in the Learning Series tab of the PCL. So if you go to PCL McGill, you will find it under Transform Learning Series, and this was our last one. So, yes.
And it will be en français, j'espère. À bientôt. Okay. So, merci and have a great day.